nice way to start off the market show this afternoon. The young lady's got one that just based off red meat yolk alone lands himself at the top of this class. That one is opened up, rounded his cage, handles very fresh and dimensional as you work your way down the top side of that one. Skeleton between the pair, you step in behind him. He's just significantly wider in the way he's constructed all the way to the base of his foundation, from stifle to stifle. The depth of that one's twist, the fullness to his lower leg just aids to that one's quality. I'm not going to say he's the latest maturing one out here that maybe takes the most coordinated step, but I like that one's extra skeletal width. I like his rib cage. I like the kind of power you see when you get right in behind him. Sheep that follows him up in second in this class, really late maturing, tall to the top side of his shoulder, really extended the way that one's made through the front 1/3 of his body cavity. He's a nickel behind in terms of his stage of development. That one could use some more time on feed, some more calories thrown his way to kind of open up his body shape, give him some more dimension when we get in behind him. Really, really good one on his feet and legs as far as soundness is concerned. He just needs more product when we get right in behind him. Really nice pair to go ahead and start off the market show. Let's give both these young ladies a nice round of applause for the exit the ring.
Class 1, Elena Rowe, Red Oak FFA. Samantha Procopio, second, Italy. Coming into the ring, Class 2, 3 entries from 130 pounds to 135 pounds. Ainsley Smith, Midlothian FFA. Ava Berger, Midlothian FFA. And John Yarbrough, Midlothian FFA.
Young lady's got the one that I'll just deem the most complete out here, whether you're talking about skeletal width, rib shape, or product and muscle. That one checks all those boxes relatively quickly. For being a power-oriented whether one that's just phenomenal in terms of freshness and touch, gets out and travels the way he's supposed to, sets them down wide and square at all four corners. One that balances up exceptionally well for having that kind of mass with muscle to him. Very smooth, level down his stop. One that ties his neck high on the top side of his blade. Just brings forth the most complete look in my mind when we step off on the side and consider those other factors of power and width. Another really wide constructed open rib one comes out here next. Love the kind of spread and dimension and shape that you see working down the top end of that one. Skeleton, somebody get nitpicky on that one, maybe not quite as just ideal in the kind of condition he's carrying over his forerib. He's a nickel softer to the touch when I get my hands working down his top. We set him in motion. He wants to be just a little bit tighter right through the middle of his spine, not quite as flexible out of his hop. One that's certainly not as massive if you read into the base of his leg and depth of his twist. Another power-oriented sheep there to be in second. The good-looking, good-moving sheep ends up in third out here. My best view on that one is when we set him into motion, he is the most flexible. He's probably just the most coordinated off all four corners. If you're just talking about keeping him true and square, no doubt that one's sound with his feet and legs. He's got to have more shape when you get on a rear three-quarter view. In comparison to the two that beat him in this particular class, he's just at a deficit for power. When you step right in behind him and read him from stifle to stifle, like to see some more massive shape working down that one's top as I work my hand down the upper portions of his skeleton. Really high-quality trio out here. Let's give all these exhibitors one more big round of applause as they make their way back to the field.
First place, Class 2, is Ava Berger, Midlothian FFA. Second, John Yarborough, Midlothian FFA. Third, Ashley Smith, Midlothian FFA. Coming in, Class 3, 142 pounds to 148 pounds. Ava Hearn, Midlothian FFA. Eliana Barfield, Midlothian FFA. And Isabella Silva, Red Oak FFA. Your sponsors today for the Market Lamb Show are CPX Trucking, Interbank, 3P Farms, OCOP Express, Republic Land Services, Circle H Contracting, EMG Heating and Air, Cowboy Party Rentals, Josh and Jacqueline Zappenfeld, VIP Roofing, Cowboy Church of Ellis County, Art Country Store, Factory Repair Services LLC. Our judge with us today is Mr. Wayne Morris. He's from Kingsbury, Texas. Wayne grew up raising show sheep and cattle and has been a part of the industry for the past 20 years. He judged livestock for Glenn College and Texas A&M University, where he graduated in 2017 with a degree in animal science. In 2023, Wayne earned his master's degree from West Texas A&M University. He has judged shows all across Texas, as well as some in California, New Mexico, Utah, Florida, and Idaho. He is now an Ag and Natural Resources agent for Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service in Caldwell County. You guys give Wayne Morris a big round of applause. Our ring sponsor today is Elmwood Custom Homes. Since I said it all throughout the goat show, I'll say it again in the lamb show. All of the sponsors that you see on this backdrop and all the sponsors that you see around the ring and on the wall, these are the people that are supporting our kids. And so what we need to do is support their businesses wherever we can.
Anything out here as far as being modern in his shape, the depth of his flank in relationship to his chest floor. You get on this one and put your hands down his back, and that one just screams quality. He's the thin-hided, hard-touching one. He's the most expressive and massive out of the backside of his blade, fresh to the center part of his loin. For being that kind of mass and shape on that one, really puts it together with a set of feet and legs that not only add to his quality on the standstill or stepping off here profile, but the young lady sets that one in motion. He's certainly the most coordinated, he's the most correct on his feet and legs. A really high quality go ahead and start in this class. One that comes out here in second, I love this sheep's touch. He's absolutely massive right to the center part of his loin, the depth of his head. One that just screams power when you get right in behind him. He's really wide and opened up at the surface. bold about his cage. We get out here to the side and maybe just not quite as tucked up and youthful in the way he's made about where his chest floor is sitting into him. A little longer about his length of blade, and we'd really like to see him just drop down in his flank just a notch to let him come together with the right kind of proportional look like the one that beats him in class today. Maybe like to see him tone down to the kind of condition he's carrying over his forerib just to make him more descript as I get my hands working down his top. Young lady's got the high cut ability, lane designed one to round out this three. One that when you get your hands on him is extremely expressive. We talk about volume of muscle and just massive muscle, and we get right on top of this one in comparison to the initial two. He's just the flattest and plainest in his body shape. He's the narrowest constructed one out here. Consequently, he doesn't have the same kind of mass or volume of muscle running down his top. Like to see him a notch squarer in the way he's created out of the top side of his hip as you read him out of his dog. Young lady's doing a great job getting that one presented. Let's give all three of these young ladies out here another big round of applause. Awesome class performance.
First place, Ava Hearn, Midlothian FFA. Second, Isabella Silva, Red Oak FFA. Third, Eliana Barfield, Midlothian FFA. Class 4 goes from 153 to 158. This is the final class of Southdown. After this class, we will have the champion drive of Southdown. Coming into the ring, Kyrie Mendoza, Waxahachie. Miranda Faulkner, Waxahachie. Audrey Sapp, Waxahachie. Addison Kelly, Red Oak. Cooper Keel, Ellis County.
sort through in this class. Little difference in type and kind out here. The one that becomes the most complete, the combination sheep in my mind, takes together quality from the side, some lateness of maturity like our second place, the extra power, width, and rib shape like our third, and puts it all together into one package just to become the most complete out here. Love the touch and handle quality on this young lady's wether to win the class. Very upstanding, square and fresh. If you're just talking about rack shape, really good, dimensional right to the center part of his loin. He's a big hip, big pin kind of a wether. It just brings a tremendous amount of fresh, creased up shape as you get right in behind him. Very three-dimensional about his rib shape. You set him in motion, and for one that's got enough power, he puts together with the right kind of feet and leg design. He's really loose constructed off both ends of his skeleton, hits north and south on all four corners, puts together with a look of quality that's just unrivaled out here. Young lady does a fantastic job getting that one presented. Second and third is the hardest choice for me. The one that ends up here in second, just based off touch alone, lands himself in a top pair of those two. He's the one who's just fresher in his condition and maintained himself better. Young lady gets him drove, and his rack jumps up into my hand. He's fresher and square right to the center part of his loin. I like that one, tip and hind leg design. We set him in motion. My biggest question on him is his feet and legs. He's the one who, of this top three, takes the shortest step. It gets a little tight right in the middle of his spine. In an ideal world, we'd drop that one's flank by about 2 inches and make it better match the base of his chest floor. That's getting awfully picky on a really high quality individual. Power Sheep comes out here in third. He's big-footed, wide-faced, stout about his feature. The turn to that one's cage is probably as three-dimensional and big as anything out here in this top three. Wish when I got my hands on him, he came together with just more touch of quality. And that one's tone and texture of muscle just gets a little soft out here. Of this top three, he's certainly carrying the most over his forerib. And being that way, he just reads a notch softer in his muscle tone and texture. Gets a little rounder right to the center part of his loin. A sheep that can flat get out and go on his feet and legs. I like that one's design an awful lot. Wish he came together with just more touch when I could work my hands down that one's top. Another powerfully constructed wether out here in fourth. Another burly made one with his feet and leg design. Very three-dimensional about his cage. You talk about condition and in a heavyweight group of Southdowns, true to form. He's one that's just getting too soft for me to get into a top three. Like that one's power, the kind of volume of muscle you see working in that one, we get right in behind him, but we just have to tone him down. The kind of condition he's carrying over his forerib, he's laid so much there that he's just not quite as good at handling when he gets your hands working down his top. Just entirely too soft for me to sneak him into a top three. One that rounds out this set, a later maturing, taller shouldered kind, one that's certainly more extended in the way he's created ahead of his blade and his neck attachment. We get out here in this field of really high quality sheep, and you just wish there was more power and stoutness of feature laid into that one. I need to fix him right to the center part of his loin. Need that sheep to come together with more dimension, more volume of muscle. We step right in behind him, reading from stifle to stifle, down into his twist. There's just not enough of him today. A really high quality way to end the classes for the Southdowns. Let's go and give all these exhibitors one more big round of applause. Fun set to sort through.
That's any of the Southdowns? Hello, hello.
First place, Audrey Sapp, Waxahachie. Second, Kyrie Mendoza, Waxahachie. Third, Miranda Faulkner, Waxahachie. Fourth, Addison Kelly, Bretto. Fifth, Cooper Skill, Ellis County. At this time, we will do our Southdown Champion and Reserve Drive. So we will invite back into the ring Alana Rowe from Class 1, Red Oak FFA. Ava Berger, Midlothian FFA. Ava Hearn, Midlothian FFA. And Audrey Sapp, Waxahachie FFA.
No doubt a tremendous amount of quality. We don't have to have the biggest show in the world to bring forth quality livestock. And this group of exhibitors out here, these first and second, represent the Southdown breed exceptionally well. There's some differences in type and kind out here. We don't have a big enough population to maybe say atypical to the ones I can tie into, but I think these are certainly all high quality sheep as individuals. They stand out here, like I said, a little difference in type and kind. We can get out here and sort through these, and I think it comes down to two in my mind. There's two extremely high quality ones. I think we can go ahead and set a precedence for the type of sheep that I'll tie into all day long. And any show you can bring me, my old philosophy will still ring true. Put as much muscle on top of their skeleton as you can without hindering its ability to function and maintain its attractiveness and youthfulness when you step off to the side. And I think there's a sheep that does that exceptionally well out here. We set a point with our champions. We get creative with our reserves out here. I think there's one that comes out here is going to be reserved that is very unique and is kind of square rib shape, the kind of power you see when you ride in behind him, his touch, his tone of muscle whenever you get your hands working down his top. Maybe not the just neatest looking one from the side in terms of his chest floor placement, but I like this one's power, and I like how three-dimensionally is when I get on either end of him. A really high quality set of 8 out here. Let's go ahead and give all these exhibitors one more big round of applause, and I'll take the Andrews champion and reserve.
Champion Audrey Sack. Reserve champion Ava Berger. Classes of fine wolves. Two classes of fine wolves. Coming into the ring, the first class, class 6, going to be 105 pounds to 137 pounds. 4 entries: Laney Turntine, Ferris FFA, Gypsy Alanis, Dallas County 4-H, Jacob Worley, Red Oak FFA, and John Yarborough, Midlothian FFA.
Hello, hello.
Class 1-5 wolves.
Tell Laney.
Extremely high quality top pair in this fine wool class. Young man's got one that's just so unique in his character and the way he's created out of you study that one from his last rib back, and he's just very unique for the breed. That hip and hind leg design, that stoutness of feature, the kind of mash and turn you see working into that one's lower leg, the way it hooks up into his flank, lets him balance up with an impeccable look out here for a power sheep that's that big-footed. Still comes together smooth and right on his feet and legs. One that's really three-dimensional about his cage. A fresh touching one that's just at an advantage out here in terms of volume of muscle over his rack. The width and spread to the center part of that one's loin. That's a true power sheep that still plays the part when you get off to a two-dimensional perspective, viewing it from the profile. A really late maturing, thin-skinned, lean design type of a sheep comes out here in second. I like how expressive, upstanding this one is in his rack shape as I work my hands down his top. He's not quite as correct in the way he hooks up his hip-loin juncture. Needs to be smoothened up right to the loin edge. One that doesn't come with the same kind of shape when you get right in behind him as far as depth of twist, the fullness to his lower leg. I think that one's very unique for the breed in the way he's created to the front one-third of his body cavity. He's shallow-chested, really short, about his shoulder blade, one that hooks up his neck, exceptional, the top side of that blade. He just seems to be a notch greener out here in his body shape, his flank line, one that needs to come with more volume when you get right out behind him. I think I'd like to see that one just freshened up a nickel right over his hip-loin junction if I'm going to make that pair switch to the top of this class. Two sheep that round out this four that are very similar in type and kind. Young man's got one that's just got the advantage in total pounds of product and dimension when you get right on top of him. He needs to be stouter about his feature. He's one that, when in comparison to the initial two, just doesn't come with the same kind of shape in his lower leg. Even that one's joint work just reads too frail for me to get him into a top pair. The greenest sheep by far rounds out this class. He's the lightest weight one out here. He needs more time on the feed to expand his body wall, come with more massive muscle down his top. One that two just needs to be a nickel stouter in terms of his overall feature to work up in this lineup. Really high quality four to sort through. Go ahead and congratulate all these exhibitors on a really nice class of finals.
Class 1 fine wool winner, John Yarborough, Midlothian FFA. Second, Jim Theohanis, Ellis County 4-H. Third, Jacob Weirley, Red Oak FFA. Fourth, Laney Turntime, Ferris FFA. Class 2 fine wool. Class 7, Christopher Hill, Midlothian. Trinity Sherman, Red Oak. Faith Broussard, Waxahachie. Kimber Robertson, Waxahachie. Morgan Manning, Red Oak. The class size goes from 141 pounds to 157 pounds. This is the last class of fine wools, and then we will have our championship drive.
exceptional top pair in this class. You step off to the side, and they're both very similar in their design. They're kind. They're two sheep that run uphill. They're shallow-chested. They're athletic and youthful in their appearance. You get in behind them, and that's where the decision is made.
You over there
the
like
young
a
ladies
quiet
up
little
front,
mouse.
He's just so much more
Minding
opened
your
up in his
business.
face width, his rib cage. You can't help but carry more dimension and mass down the top side of his skeleton. In comparison to the rest of the field, he dwarfs everything else in terms of back shape. That one is massive over his rack, huge to the center part of his loin. He's the most pulled apart in the way he's created to the top side of his hip, and then underneath that, he is chock full of power. From stifle to stifle, down into his twist and lower leg, he carries the most volume of muscle. It's the most shaped up correctly in an athletic fashion. That one's awfully good. If you're getting nitpicky and maybe you can make the pair switch, it's on the go. I'd like to see him just hold his top line a little more relaxed right to the middle of his spine. But I think that's an attitude adjustment, if anything. He's fighting the halter. Read that one's skeleton and the quality in which it reads with in its angles. And I don't think it's a structural deviation. I think that one's just a little hard-headed and fighting the halter for the young lady. I think that one's awfully high quality to go ahead and start off this class. Like I said, from a two-dimensional perspective, stepping out from the side, this young lady in second, you got one that balances up just phenomenally. A tall-shouldered, late maturing one who blends together extremely smooth out of the backside of his shoulder, very correct about his hip and hind leg design, even has an advantage in terms of total stoutness if you're just talking about feet and legs and his feature in comparison to our class winner. You get right in behind him and he can fit inside of our class winner. He's just not as opened up in his center, in his forerib. He doesn't come with the same kind of mass up high. If that one comes with the same kind of power, with that kind of stoutness, I think you'd have one that's very hard to beat. A power-oriented sheep to come out here in third. Love this one's touch. Very expressive and massive right in behind his shoulder. Needs to be more correct in his top line. He gets a little piecey as you read him in his hip loin juncture. We set him into motion. It more amplifies itself. I like that one's power. I like its base width, stoutness, a feature. That's why he stays in the top three. There's some structural issues we need to fix on that one in terms of top line design to sneak him up any higher. Another wide base sheep when you get right in behind him is a young man in fourth. Love how pulled apart he is to the top side of his hip. Another one who's really big in his feature and the kind of boot hole you see working down to that one's ankle. You're right on top of him. Of his top four, he's just a little flatter and plainer in his forehead. Consequently, not quite as massive over his rack. He needs to freshen up just a notch as you work your way from there back in terms of touch and quality and his tone of muscle. A really nice power sheep that's just a little stale out here in comparison to some of the ones that beat him. And the young ladies that
Are you
come
giving
down
him a
next,
nap?
a sheep that'll really
I'm not.
surprise you when you get right on top of him, how thin-skinned and hard-muscled he is.
I can go
very
back and find the
expressive
other
and
one.
shapely.
Give me the names.
And that one's muscle shape, one that just doesn't come with the right kind of stoutness of feature, boot hole design. Proportionality still matters. When you're carrying that much mass up high, you better match it down low, or else your proportions are just all off. He doesn't come together with a smooth enough or complete enough look for me to scoot him up any higher. That's a tremendous set of finals out here, guys. Let's give all these exhibitors out here one more big round of applause. Congratulations to that young lady up front.
First place, Kimber Robertson, Waxahachie. Second, Faith Bassar, Waxahachie. Third, Tiffany Sherman, Rowe. Fourth, Christopher Hill, Midlothian. Fifth, Morgan Maines, Rowe. We're going to ask of those two classes, we're going to have their final championship drive. We need John Yarborough and Gypsy Atlantis from class 1. And we need Kimber Robertson and Faith Bassar from class 2. This is your final champion drive.
Set of four out here to represent the fine wool division. We get out here and we talk about uniqueness, hard to make creatures out here, and I think there's one that can wear that hat with pride. There's one that's just the most unique, and especially in the way they're made to the front one-third of their body cavity. We've come a long ways in the fine wool division of making a modern show sheep that are more athletic in the way they view from the profile. We've made them taller shouldered, shallower chested, better in their flank line, and above all, they're just far superior to the old generations as far as their hip and hind leg design. I think that's very evident as we study these four out here. Those sheep are all extremely high quality in the way they view from the side. You got to put it together with the right kind of mass, face width, and rib shape and touch of quality for me to go ahead and win division. I think there's one out here that's a standalone champion, no doubt. Gets a little closer for reserve. There's one that's a little better looking. There's one that's just absolutely a stout-made, wide-faced one who's chock full of power. That maybe you can get a nickel. Just critical on this one's handle quality as far as his height. But I think it's an awfully close decision there for reserve. Let's go ahead and give all four of these exhibitors one more big round of applause. I'll take the Indian champion, give them one more look, and then find the reserve. Congratulations to all four of you.
Fine wool champion is going to be Kimber Robertson. Reserve champion is Faith Broussard. Move over to fine wool crosses. We have three classes of fine wool cross. Three classes of fine wool cross. The first class goes from 131 to 134. We have Anissa Torres Bredo, Kinley Gutierrez, Waxahachie, and Morgan Maine Bredo.
One of the easiest decisions I've made thus far today is finding a young lady to go ahead and win this class. That's an extremely high quality sheep. Not taking anything away from our second and third in this class, but that's the kind of sheep you need to work your way into the front end of classes. No matter if you're at a county level, or you're at a major stock show, that kind works all day long. His feet and leg design, his stoutness of feature, he hits the gate. One that can give you the warm and the fuzzy, just in that one's feature, the spread in his lower cage, a really round-ribbed one who's fresh to the touch and yet massive in his shape, puts all the things together with the right kind of look from the side in terms of being proportional, running uphill and athletic. Sheep in the way his cage is laid into him and his chest floor. Young lady does a fantastic job getting presented. It's an awfully nice one. Congratulations to her. Second, third is the more difficult decision out here. And for me, there's a wider base, rounder rib one who comes with more shape when you get right in behind him. He ends up in second in this class. He's got more volume of muscle working out of the backside of his blade, out towards the end of his dock. He's thicker ended, more just pulled apart as you read him from stifle to stifle. Like the depth of this one's twist. Cut him off at his hock and knee and read him from there up. That's a high quality sheep. He needs to better match it down low in terms of proportionality and stouting up in his feature if we're going to come close to that class winner. A really good built one to round out this three. He's tall shouldered, long-sided, level design. Like the way this one gets out and travels in comparison to our second place. He seems to be just a nickel more coordinated on the go. That sheep's just behind in his body shape. He seems to be the most immature in his flank line. He's the leanest one out here, and because of that, he needs some more time, some more groceries thrown at him to get the kind of shape and volume. Want to get right on top of him to compete with those initial two. He just needs more volume of muscle. A really high quality trio. A very nice one to start off this class. Give all three of these young ladies out here one more big round of applause.
First place, Kaylee Gutierrez, Waxahachie. Second, Morgan Maines, Red Oak. Third, Anissa Torres, Red Oak. The next class has 4 entries in it from 141 pounds to 159. Jody J, Ellis County 4-H. Mackenzie Oliver, Red Oak FFA. Ava Hurd, Midlothian. Mackenzie Purdue, Midlothian.
another exceptional place to start in this class in terms of quality. There's different levels to this game, and guys, this sheet's just on a different level. That one's kind of power and shape. The way it even hits your hand is almost electric. Really good as far as being a lean design, shapely one that's still smooth and correct. And the way he hooks up to the front side of his hip, a really powerfully constructed, stout-featured, wide-base kind of a sheet that is unrivaled and unmatched in terms of quality when he steps off to the side. The way he reads down the top side of his skeleton to set to his hip and hind leg just adds to his quality for being that powerful. Very impressive to see one that can tie all those things together in a package that complete from the side. Sheep that comes out here in second, another big back round rib, the one he's very opened up in his forerib and center, fresh to the center part of his loin. He doesn't have some of those wow factor pieces like our class winner does in terms of stoutness and smoothness. Doesn't tie together quite as correct down the top end of his skeleton. Little taller at the top of his hip than he is the point of his blade, and a sheep that just wants to run the wrong direction, just ever so slightly. Red meat yield alone and stoutness of feature keep him into a top pair. Got two sheep that round out this class. It's a little tough to get those timed in here with the crosses and hang with them in terms of skeletal width and rib shape and touch. Those two sheep need to be shaped up as you analyze them right in behind their blade. The young lady in third, you got one that's extremely stout in his feature and from his last rib back. Like a lot of things about him. He's wide and square through the center part of his loin, very smooth in his hip loin juncture and pulled apart the top side of his hip. From there forward is where he gets beat. He's too plain and deep about his chest floor, and again, just needs to be square and more shapely over his rack. Young lady's got a really late maturing, tall fronted one to round out this set. The one that's just the frailest constructed out here doesn't have quite the shape and massive power. When you get right in behind him, that's an extremely high quality lineup of sheep. Let's go ahead and congratulate all these exhibitors on a really nice set.
First place, Mackenzie Pardue, Midlothian. Second, Ava Hearn, Midlothian. Third, Jody J, Ellis County. Fourth, Mackenzie Oliver, Red Oak. At the final cross, we have two entries, 166 pounds and 174 pounds. Chloe Holmes, Midlothian, and Madison Witt, Midlothian.
Out here in this pair, and the young lady's got one that if you're just talking about quality and the way that one hits the ring, as a judge, first impressions mean an awful lot, and that one almost glows when he hits the shavings. That one's stoutness of feature, how white he is, and just his feature, his boot wool, his hide quality, and then you get your hands on him, and to no surprise, that one is absolutely massive over his rack. Very three-dimensional made one. If you're just talking about the turn and curve of that one, center and forerib above that, really wide and square over his loin. A true power sheep that puts it together with just an incredible look of quality as we step off to the side, the way he runs uphill, the way he blends together his neck and shoulder, and then from there into his forerib. Just hits you so high quality. Young lady does a fantastic job getting that one presented as well. Young lady in second, nothing to take away from this one. If the one in front of you is not standing here today as an individual, there's a tremendous amount of quality left in that sheep. For a fine wool cross, that one is really opened up at his base where it has a tremendous amount of volume of muscle from stifle to stifle and down into his lower leg. He's a big back, fresh handling kind that just runs out of style points from the side in comparison to our class winner. Nickel shorter to the top side of his hip. He's the plainer fronted sheep that's just longer about his blade and deeper about his chest floor. Ultimately, he just doesn't come together with the same athletic and unique view as we step off to the profile. Two extremely high quality individuals out here. Give both those young ladies another nice big round of applause.
Madison Witt, Midlothian first place. Chloe Holmes, Midlothian second. I'm gonna ask you guys to come right back in there. This is your Fine Wool Cross Champion Drive. From the first class, we're going to ask Kenley Gutierrez, Waxahachie FFA, Morgan Main, Red Oak FFA. In class 2, we're going to ask Mackenzie Purdue, Midlothian FFA, and Ava Hearn. And from class 3, Madison Witt and Chloe Holmes. This is your Fine Wool Cross Champion in reserve.
Drive out here in the cross division. It's not an easy choice. It comes down to two in my mind. I've never been the guy to go back through and describe them, but I think there's two out here that really sort themselves to the top. They're appropriate in their size and their lateness of maturity, but they're a little different in type and kind. I think if you could take my champion reserve out of this division and mash them together into one creature, you could go anywhere in the state of Texas or the nation for that matter and go hang a banner somewhere. I think these two are extremely high quality. The places where I enjoy view them are just a little different on each of them. I think there's one that's probably just better when we step off to the side in terms of his lines, how shallow chested and deep flank one of them is. Very correct in their feet and leg placement, but maybe get a little critical of this one when you step him out here in this drive of just how he handles. Maybe not quite as fresh over his forehead, not quite as upstanding in his rack shape. Anybody who's hauled to me in the past knows that initial touch is awfully important to me. They better be blown apart right behind their shoulder, fresh in their muscle shape. I'm a power guy by nature, but I try my best to be a blend guy. Feet and legs are still important, yes. But first and foremost, they have to be big-footed, wide-based, round-ribbed, and heavy muscled. If you can do all those things and then put it together with enough look from the side, enough quality of skeleton and build when we set them into motion, well then I think you've got one that can kind of suit everybody you haul them to. That's the kind I try to strive and find out here. Again, I think these top two in this division are exceptional in terms of quality. They're a little different type and kind, different guy on different days, probably sorts them a different way, but this is my opinion out here between these two, and again, I think it's ultra close. It comes down to one man's opinion. I like the extra power leading to one. I really enjoy the extra handle quality of the one that's going to end up being champion out here. Let's go ahead and give all these exhibitors one more big round of applause. A fantastic set of final crosses of a 15 season reserve.
Champion, Mackenzie Pardue. Reserve, Madison Witt. First class of Dorfers has 4 entries from 96 pounds to 117 pounds. McKenna Johnson, Red Oak FFA. Reagan Barbie, Waxahachie. Andrea Ortiz, Waxahachie. Kinley Turntime, Ferris FFA.
appropriate in the kind of condition that he's laid over his forerib. A three-dimensional sheep when you get on top of him as far as his cage is concerned. Love the kind of shape this one brings to the table when you step right in behind him. You're going to get a little critical on that one. Maybe he's not short to the top side of his hip. Maybe he's not the stoutest footed one in the world, but that one touches the part, looks the part when we get out to the side in terms of being shallow chested and athletic in his view and his profile. I think that one becomes the place for me to land. The one that ends up here in second, a little stouter about his feature. I like the way the sheep comes together from the side in terms of his lines. Again, I'll sound like a broken record all day, but that initial touch is very important to me. And in comparison to our class winner, he becomes much more bland over his rack. He's heavier conditioned, softer to the touch. Even with the extra condition he is carrying over his forerib, you analyze him right from the way he hooks up his hip-joint junction right there. He needs to smoothen up. He needs to become lighter and square as I read him to the center part of his loin. Really good balance sheep. Really like the way that one gets out and travels in terms of his top line. Sheep that comes out here in third, true to fashion, has all the base width, rib shape, and power you could ever put into one. We need to get him to travel out with more flexibility and comfort out of his rear skeleton. Like to see him laid back the angle of his blade and grab some more ground with those front two. He's a notch more jammed up. We're just talking about from flank to flank, and that one's maturity pattern. He's the quickest one out here. Like to see him more extended up front. Opposite end of the spectrum to the young lady's white-headed Dorper, true to form. The white-headed Dorper is the latest maturing one out here. He's lean design, really level in the way he reads down his top line. Again, we talk about volume of muscle and stoutness of feature, and that's where he gets beat for me. You get right on top of him, he's just too narrow constructed. He's too plain in his body shape. He's got to come with more volume of muscle working down his top for me to sneak him into a top three. A really high quality set, a good way to start off the Dorpers. Go ahead and give all these exhibitors out here a big round of applause.
It's a dolly.
All right. First place, Reagan Barbie, Waxahachie. Second, Andrea Ortiz, Waxahachie. Third, McKenna Johnson, Red Oak FFA. And fourth, Kinley Turntime, third. Class 12 coming into the ring. We had 5 entries, ranging 121 pounds to 124 pounds. Very close. Sarah Weissman, Paris FFA. Andrea Ortiz, Waxahachie. Ashley Brashear, Midlothian. Leah Lopez, Waxahachie. Claire Johnson, Ellis County 4-H. Give Andrea just a minute to walk around the other side. I'll let you have it. Go ahead.
A really high quality top pair, two sheep that are so comparable in terms of their volume of muscle, their rib shape, their touch, tone, the kind of condition they're carrying. When they're that similar in that many areas, why not go ahead and use the one you prefer from the side? That's the young lady's white-headed Dorper that starts off this class. If you're just talking about one that's more athletic, more youthful in the way he's made up front, that's the sheep that does it for me. He's shallower about his chest, more correct in the way he progresses from there back into his cage and the way his flank line hooks up into him. A sheep that balances up and just plays such a crucial part in terms of quality. When you step off to the side, they've got to come together with that kind of look if they're going to be that powerful to end up in the top of the class. The young lady does a really good job getting that one presented. Sheep that comes out here in second from his foreribs back, mirror image of our class winner. That one's built very similar in his hip and hind leg design. You put your hands on him and you probably couldn't tell the difference between them. We step off to the side, between that pair, he just becomes too deep about his chest, or too long about the length of his blade. It makes him look like the more mature of the two out here as we step off the profile. Just some minor things we need to change on that one in order to swap that pair. Sheep that comes out here in third, very descriptive in his shape, a thin heighted one that you get your hands working down his top. That one creases up with a tremendous amount of shape right in behind his blade. At the same time, he's just so lean, so green in his condition, he becomes flatter and plainer in his forerib, his center cavity. He doesn't come with the same kind of mass as you read him behind his shoulder, over his loin. He can use his Shotmore shape if you're just getting right in behind him and reading him in his lower leg shape. That's where the fourth place can push him. I think if you're just talking about depth of twist and flare to their outer stifle, the young lady in the fourth probably has a nickel of an advantage there. For me, we talk about proportionality and uniqueness of kind, and I really like to see that one stand up his feature just a little bit. We step off and get that one in motion. For me, he becomes too rounded at the top side of his hip and doesn't really know where he's going to set down those rear two. Wants to flare out those two hocks when he leaves me. Just some minute things in terms of feet and leg design that keep him out of the top three. The sheep that rounds out the class, very similar in type and kind to the one that ends up in third. The way he's made out of his hip and hind leg, a shallow-chested, lean designed one that needs to be opened up in his forerib, needs to come with more massive muscle when you step right in behind him in his lower leg and twist in order to work up any higher. A really high quality set of Dorpers out here. Let's go ahead and congratulate all these exhibitors on a really nice set.
First place, Leo Lopez, Waxahachie. Second, Andrea Ortiz, Waxahachie. Third, Ashlyn Brashear, Midlothian. Fourth, Claire Johnson, Ellis County. Fifth, Sarah Whiteman, Ferris FFA. Your last class of Dorpers ranging from 131 to 157. You have Callie Mahone from Red Oak FFA and Jamie Middleton, Waxahachie FFA. After this class, we will have our Dorper Championship drive.
division, and the one that ends up winning for me is just the more modern of the two in terms of building show sheep. We're reading from his last strip back. The extra set of the top side of his hip aids to that one taking a longer and smoother step out of those rear two between those sheep. You get right in behind him. He's just so much more pulled apart and opened up in his center cavity, the way he views over the center part of his loin, and really the take-home factor when you get right over the top side of this one's hip and his pin placement, and just how pulled apart he is and the way he's created the top side of his hip. Just hits me as more modern, harder to replicate, harder to create type of a sheep out here. One that puts together a tremendous amount of volume of muscle with still a high quality skeleton that can get out and function the way that it's supposed to. That's not taking anything away from that white-headed Dorper that ends up in second out here, but the story is told when we step in behind him. He gets a little too near the top side of his hip. He's not nearly as massive in the shape he presents rather than the back side of his blade. Then you get your hands working on him. He's the one of the two that's carrying just more condition over his forerib. He's softer to the touch. We're carrying a lot of mass up high, and I'd really like to see him more proportional and stout in his feature down low, just to bring him together with a more complete look. That one balances up fine. He's level design. He needs to come together with more touch, more mass, especially right in behind his shoulder in terms of rack development. Really unique pair to sort through. A great way to end the Dorpers off. Let's go ahead and give both those exhibitors another big round of applause. All 6 of them represent the breed exceptionally well, especially in the places that they're good. Again, we talk about the newest breed to the show string, and one of them that is just rapidly advancing in terms of quality and feet and leg design, and getting them a little later maturing. I think that we're doing a good job on that front as breeders and producers to make them more show oriented. Of course, we've got this breed that still does the real world job of feeding the population, but as far as putting together the right kind of show look out here, that's what we're striving for. I think we're doing a good job at that. We got one that's going to be champion out here that puts together just the most complete package in my mind. A really wide-based, round-ribbed one who's the freshest touching out here, especially in his condition. Really upstanding in his rack shape. Maybe not the one you'll just label as the freakiest one out here in terms of lateness and maturity, but a complete individual that still runs uphill, is youthful, athletic in the way he views, and puts it together with a tremendous amount of massive muscle. The one that's going to come out here to be reserved, one that's extremely unique, especially from his last rib back. I think this one's got an awfully neat look. He's really pulled apart the top side of his hip. Probably just the most massive if you're reading shape from stifle to stifle and depth and twist. A very unique one that maybe doesn't just view the best out here in terms of the way he throws himself together. An attitude adjustment is needed on this one just to get him to come together and look the part. But reading past that, if you're just reading livestock and quality of livestock, I think there's one out here that plays the part second best for me. Go ahead and put your hands together for all 6 of these exhibitors out here. Nice set of Dorcas to sort through. I'm going to show you my 2 favorites.
The champion is Leah Lopez. The reserve champion is Dave Middleton.
Another really fun class to sort through. We started our medium wolves, and I may be biased, but this is where I started getting excited. We didn't mess around with a whole lot of those off-breed sheep whenever I was going through the show ring. This is where we lived. 90% of the time, whenever I was under the age of 18, I was in a show ring somewhere holding on to a black-headed show sheep. And so this is where I really kind of tune in and enjoy myself as a judge. May not show on my face, but I really do enjoy sorting through quality livestock. And this first class of blacks certainly didn't disappoint. Really like a lot of these sheep out here in this top 5. The one for me that puts together the most uniqueness of shape, rib cage, and touch is the young man that ends up winning. That's a tall-shouldered, elevated type of sheep who's shallow about his chest floor. For being what I would consider still a green one, his cover and his rib, that one's depth of flank in relationship to his chest floor is awfully impressive. Of this set, he's the widest constructed when you right in behind him. He has the most shape and volume of muscle when you read him from stifle to stifle. Love the depth of that one's twist. If you're going to get nitpicky, excluding everything else, he's a little pointy right at the top of his stock. But if that's the only thing I can find I don't like about him, I'm still going to use that one to win. That one's got a tremendous amount of quality throughout. Blue Sheep comes out here in second. Get right on top of him. This one really is impressive in the turn to his forerib and his center cavity. If you're looking for kind of an old school, almost tubular shape to one, that is a shallow chested, round ribbed one to the nth degree. Love this one's quality of touch when you work your hands down his top. You step in behind him in comparison to our class winner. He's a notch shallower about his twist. Hooks his muscle in just a little higher at the base of his leg. Maybe one that when he step out here profile is just a notch harsh right through his flank line. I wish we could drop that down just a little bit to better match his chest floor. Then we could push our class winner a little bit more. I like the kind of the one that comes out here in third. He's stout in his feature, rugged in his bone work, pulled apart the base of his skeleton, and he is as massive in his cage as anything out here. We get some power sheep, and sometimes they come with atypical power sheep problems. He's got a few of those. He's a little bit more jammed up from flank to flank, more conventional in the way he's built up front. A deeper chested one out here in comparison to 2 racehorses in front of him. He just runs out of style, points from the side. I love that one's power. Love that one's massive muscle, especially when you get right in behind him. Young man fooled me with this sheep. We walked through the gate, and I didn't think that we'd end up in a top 5 with that one, but he pulls him together and sticks that one profile. That's a really high quality kind of a sheep. Read him in his top line, his undercarriage. Get your hands on him. Really fresh in the kind of muscle shape he brings to the table. A thin-skinned, hard-handling one who's still smooth over his hip-loin juncture. We set him into motion. That's where he falls forth pretty quick for me, and that's on that initial view of him coming in the ring. He just doesn't hold himself together well enough. He fights the young man just enough to drop down to his chest floor, work up in the middle of his spine. Just doesn't read quite as coordinated on the go. Another powerfully constructed sheep to round out this top 5. Really opened up through his center. Love the kind of mass this one reads with up high as I work my hands down his top. That one needs to smoothen up just a little bit in his top line, the way he transitions over his hip loin. Like to see him maybe get out and travel just a little more correct, especially right through the middle of his spine. He wants to get a little round on the top side of his hip. It's a fun class to start off the blacks. Let's go ahead and give all these kiddos out here a big round of applause. That top pair is awfully fun, guys. That's the kind of handle, the kind of touch that I like to see into them. They're appropriate in the kind of condition they're carrying over their forerib. They're smooth-made sheep that have a lot of volume and mass of muscle, whether you're standing in behind them or getting right on top of those sheep. Those are power-oriented wethers that put together just a phenomenal set of feet and legs to have that kind of power. Talking about feet and legs, we set them in motion. That pretty young lady's blue sheep really does it for me. For being that massive, he's the one who's smoother jointed, takes a longer step out of his rear too, and maintains his top line better. Love the way that one comes together from the side. I'm not going to say that that is the ultra shallow chested, tall shouldered one out here, but he's correct in his lines, proportional in his balance and his stoutness of feature. Love this one's handle quality. He's the smoothest made one out here who's still really firm to the touch. Awfully good one to go ahead and start off with. Sheep that comes out here in second, very three-dimensional about his cage, probably a little more upstanding if you're just talking about his rack development, right in behind his blade. One that's tremendous in terms of the freshness he carries right to the center part of his loin, and his height quality is just impeccable out here. Makes him such a joy to read as you get right on top of him and put your hands down the top end of that one skeleton. We step off to the side and even set the sheep in motion. That's where he gets a nickel rougher down his top line, doesn't tie everything together quite as smooth, wants to get just a notch more restricted in the way he utilizes his hip and hind leg. Like that sheep's handle quality an awful lot. Sheep that comes out here in third from his last rib forward, I think is very high quality. Like the turn to that one's forerib in similar fashion to our second place, one that's very upstanding and square over his rack. We get from there back, and of his top three or even top five, he seems to be just a little harsh and immature in his flank line. Need to drop that down to better match his chest floor. Young man does a really good job getting that one presented. It's a shame the down gets thrown into the blacks and doesn't find his way into the down division, but white, black, indifferent on color, I think that's good quality livestock. He's wide at the base of his skeleton. He's opened up in his forerib and heart and center cavity. He's a powerfully designed type of sheep who's fresh to the touch, in fashion to the South Down breed. We step him out here with some blacks. He becomes just a notch plainer from the side. Wants to run downhill just ever so slightly. Isn't the shallowest chested one out here in the world, but that's a good power sheep nonetheless to sit there in fourth. Young man sheep that comes out here in fifth. Get in behind him, that's his best view. He's opened up at the top side of his hip, big in his pin placement, and reads with a lot of volume of muscle. As you study that one from stifle to stifle, that sheep needs to come together, more unique from the side. He's another one that runs downhill, is too deep about his chest floor. Like to see him stoutened up in his rear leg just a little bit. Really high quality set. Nice second class of blacks out here. Let's go ahead and congratulate all these exhibitors on a really nice set of sheep.
Mother.
And it's really fun to get into a top pair like that where in your mind as a judge, no matter which way you go, you can be happy with the outcome. We've got to split them at some point instead of just throwing our hands up in the air and saying, I don't know what to do. We've got to work our way through our mental fortitude, our checklist, if you will, and use the one that becomes just the most complete out here. And between those two, that's not an easy task to do. We set the two sheep into motion, and that's where I'll give the edge to the young man that ends up winning this class. The way that sheep holds his front end together, remains taller at the top side of his shoulder than he is the top side of his hip. That one is tremendous in terms of feet and leg design and the way he presents himself on the go. He does those things while still being absolutely massive in his shape, fresh in his rib cage, ultra smooth down his top, and the young man just gets him stuck impeccably out here from the side. And he even further exceeds the rest of the class just in terms of quality because of the way that young man can get that one presented. Sheep in second, there's no doubt there are some advantages in that one. I think this is what makes it ultra close between the pair. I have a hard time not using the best touching, most massive muscled sheep to go ahead and win a class. That one is tremendous in terms of shape, freshness, and that one's cage design. He's my absolute favorite when I work my hands over his rack and loin and out of the top side of his dock. He's also just the most massive when he's stepping behind him. If you're just talking about sheer volume of muscles from stifle to stifle, down into his twist and his lower leg, that is the power sheep of this entire set. When they're so comparable to one another, and I think there's enough muscle in one, I'll use the feet and leg design on that one to go ahead and win. But again, that is a really close top pair, guys. Congratulations to both those young men. One that comes out here in third, hits the gate. I knew that one would probably be in the top three. That one's feature and stoutness, how pulled apart he is, the base of his chest floor, a round rib power sheep that just oozes power when you study that one's leg and the way his muscle hooks up to the base of it. You get right in behind him in comparison to the initial two. He's carrying a little more middle out here, and because of that, he's not nearly as impressive in the shape and spread to the top side of his hip. He wants to look a little boatish, if you will, out here because he's carrying so much middle. I really got to fix that one's pin placement if we're going to rival those initial two. That is a great power sheep with a really, really stout set of feet and legs. I just wish he was more ideal when he stepped right in behind him. One that comes out here in fourth does have advantages there. He's bigger pin, he's bigger to the top side of his hip, more wedge designed, if you will, when you step right in behind the sheep. He's another one that you just fall in love with, his extra handle quality and thinness of hide and skin. One that when you set him into motion, not only is he just a frailer featured one, he's the one who falls apart in his top line, gets a little wavy right to the center of his back, needs to hook up better in his hip-loin junction. Then one that you can just deem as complete out here. Maybe doesn't have extra wow factor pieces. That's a good power sheep that's wide based, thick-ended, big back and round rib, and that alone for me can keep him into a top five. He's too plain and deep in his chest floor. He's not correct on the top side of his hip in comparison to some of them that beat him today. That's an awesome set of sheep to sort through, guys, especially at a county level. Give yourself a pat on the back. That's a really nice set. Congratulations to all these exhibitors. Congratulations to the young man that wins this class. Here in my mind, in comparison to some that we've seen earlier in the day, the young man's got one that just hits you like the sheep that's supposed to win out here. That's the power sheep that's opened up, the most three-dimensional about his cage. He's the freshest and biggest out of the backside of his shoulder, the most massive over his loin, the deepest to his head. That's a thick-ended rascal right there that puts together with a set of feet and legs that are plenty good enough for me to go ahead and win this class with ease. The one you fall in love with in his design is just purely their silhouette standing out here on the profile is the young man that comes out here in second. He's straight in his top line, very attractive in his hip and hind leg set. Love the extra stoutness of feature, reaching to the base of his leg and his ankle and his foot size. You set him in motion, boy, that is a cat on the walk. He's as loose and flexible and yet square and wide as anything out here. My only issue with the sheep and why he falls in second pretty quickly for me. We get right in behind these two weathers and he can fit right inside of our class winner. Just study that one's forerib and his center cavity alone. It becomes just entirely too flat and plain for me to work him up ahead of our class winner because it's a little flatter, because it's a little plainer in shape. It doesn't have near the capacity to carry as much volume of muscle up above that in terms of rack, in terms of center portion to his loin. It's a really good looking, good built one with a really stout set of feet and legs. There's just got to be more product laid into him genetically. Young lady's got one that comes out here next, and if you're just reading him in terms of body kind and type and muscularity, matches the kind of our class winner. We set him into motion, he falls into third for me. Wants to get to upright angle of his blade, doesn't get out and travel enough flex out of his front two, wants to be more restricted in the way he utilizes his hip and hind leg, and just consequently works up a little tighter right in the middle of his spine. Love this one's touch and love his power. He's got to get out and travel with more authority. Sheep that comes out here in fourth, really powerfully designed, big-footed, stout-featured one. He's as opened up as anything out here. He's probably just got as much volume and massive muscle as anything when we step right in behind him. He's a sheep for me. I'm starting to get concerned with the kind of condition that's laid over his forerib. He's softer to the touch. He's one out here that's just starting to look a little quick, a little earlier maturing. He's deeper about his chest floor. He's more compact from flank to flank. I'd like to see that one stretched out and more athletic in the way he's built up front to compete with those top three. The young man's got a spec out here in class that really shows you a high quality time in terms of build and balance. The way that one gets out and travels, there's just not enough to it in comparison to the top four. He's got to come together with more shape when you step in behind him. He's got to be wider and squarer to the center part of his loin. Really high quality class and short pitch. Congratulations to that young man up front. Let's give them all one more big round of applause. Boy, if you want to come sort that top 5, you better have your thinking cap on straight. I think there's a lot of high-quality sheep in this
An
top
extra
5, guys. Really down to this top 3, it becomes a head-scratcher out here. We start analyzing these things, and for me, just staying true to my priority list, my check boxes that I've got to go through. This one that ends up winning for me checks all of them, just the biggest. He's the most extreme one out here in terms of rib design. He's the widest face, the biggest footed, the most massive muscled one out here. I guess my only question is when we're not standing side by side with the one that ends up in second with him, is he the one that's just a little more jammed up from flank to flank? And I'm not going to call him too jammed up to not let him win. That one, for being that massive and powerful, still puts together plenty of look from the side. He's taller the top side of his shoulder than he is the top side of his hip. Set him in motion. I prefer the blue sheep over the one that ends in second. I think he reaches just a little better with his front two. He's more coordinated out of his rear end. He's a sheep that maintains his top line just a little bit better. Sheep that comes out here in second, you get right on top of this one, and man, you just can't help but fall in love with how opened up he is through his forerib, his center cavity, the kind of mass he brings to the table right in behind his shoulder. In comparison to our class winner, he has one distinct advantage, and that's right over the middle part of that one's loin. He's the biggest loin sheep out here, no doubt about it, by a mile. I can't hardly get my hand right across the top side of that one's loin and span him from edge to edge. I love that about him. We set him in motion, even though it's close. I think that one runs downhill just a nickel harsher. He's not quite as ideal in his flank line. He's a notch rounder right at the top side of his dot. That's a really close top pair. The one you fall in love with in terms of feet and legs and when they're actually traveling, the most up-fronted, tallest shouldered one ends up here in third. And that's not something that's uncommon for me to sort to. I like that one's feet and leg design. He's extremely high quality when the young lady sets him up profile. We get on top of this one. In comparison to the initial two, he's plainer in his body shape. He's not as massive up high. He's not as square and true right to the center part of his loin. Another really round rib, thin-hided, hard-handling sheep to come out here at the fourth. One that's not quite as trendy in his leg design, not quite as stout in his feature, chewing into his rear ankle and foot size. One that's getting a little harsher about his flank line in correlation to his chest floor. Need to smoothen him up just a nickel as you read him right over his hip-loin junction. Young lady shows one in the fifth out here. Didn't think that sheep initially would work up quite as high as he does. It's a good power sheep that's square built. When you get right in behind him, he needs to be more opened up through his forerib. He needs to be stouter in his rear leg. He needs to handle just fresher in his high quality and the amount of conditioning he's carrying over his forerib to sneak into this top four. Really high quality set from top to bottom. Let's go ahead and congratulate all these exhibitors on the job well done. becomes the most complete, the one I have the least qualms with. A really complete sheep from the side in terms of balance and the way he's maintained the front 1/3 of his body cavity, coming in here at least 180 pounds. You get your hands on him. Kudos to that young lady for getting that one fed correctly. That one's still plenty good. His condition over his forerib, he's hard to the touch, he's expressive over his rack, yet still smooth in his loin edge. One that comes together when you get right in behind him, just the most pulled apart the top side of his hip, feeds the most shakedown. Below that, it's a really nice sheep in the heavies to go ahead and get us started. Sheep that comes out here in second, really like the touch and handle quality of this one, really wedgy design when you get right in behind him. His big hip, round about his cage, and just progressively gets cooler up through his blade. Like to take maybe a ½ inch out of the bottom of his chest core and throw it back into his flank. But I like the transition down that one top line, and in a heavyweight class of blacks, just how lean and how expressive that one is, gets himself a long way for me. Sheep that comes out here in third from his last rib forward, no doubt deserves to be into a top pair. That one is round and opened up in his forerib, smoothing the way his blade lays into his body cavity. We get from there back, a sheep that's got to be more correct in his hip-loin junction. He gets a little shorter and around to the top side of his hip. For me, that one's carrying a little more condition over his forerib, and consequently, just getting the nickel softer to the touch. Sheep that comes out here next, balances up better in his top line, the one that beats him out here today. The sound made kind of a weather that's just got to be more opened up when you get in behind him. Needs to come deeper about his flank line, needs to be more opened up in his center cavity. Similar situation for the two that round out this set in the heavyweight class of blacks. You've certainly got to have the right kind of soundness of feature and mass of muscle, especially when you get in behind them. Those two sheep need to be better in those areas for me to work them up any higher. Really high quality set from top to bottom. Great way to end the classes for the day. Let's congratulate all these exhibitors on a really Awesome set of medium wools out here, these first and seconds. I couldn't be more proud of the set that I've put together to represent the type of livestock that I can tie into. I said at the beginning of the day, I've got a little spiel that kind of illustrates the kind that I tie into. Put as much muscle on top of their skeleton as you can without hindering its ability to function. And I think that there's plenty of sheep out here, whether in their first or second spot, that really fulfill that role. There's one for me that ties everything together the best. I would consider all these first and seconds power sheep. I think there's one that ties that extra power, width, and rib shape together with just an unrivaled look of quality out here. At the end of the day, we do have to go take a backdrop picture, and so silhouette still matters. The way they tie together their top line, they got to be shallow chested as you can make them, and yet still beef about their flank line in order to tie together correctly. And I think there's one that just does that the best. We're going to get out here, and the close decision for me is what are we going to do for reserve. There's a couple in contention, and I think it's splitting hair close out here as far as which one you can use for reserve. There's a couple different options in my mind. For the time being, go ahead and put your hands together for all these exhibitors out here. A fantastic set of sheep. I'll go show you my sheep races. Your showmanship to go, but I want to take this time to thank everybody that coordinated this show and put everything together, the volunteers in the back who are never thanked enough for the kind of work they put in to put these things on. It takes a tremendous amount of work and coordination on their behalf in order to make these things happen and make it run smooth. A tremendous set of sheep, you guys. Kudos to all of you parents, FFA, 4-H leaders around the ring watching. You've got a great set of exhibitors with a better set of sheep out here that really do represent the type that I can tie into. I want to give a shout out real quick. He's always busy on the ranch taking care of stuff while I'm out on the road, but I want to say thanks to Dad for coming out and supporting me out here today. I don't get to travel with him near enough as much as I wish I could. He got to travel up here with me and watch me judge this show, and it means a lot to have your parents and the guy who raised you and pushed you into this sport really watch you and pay attention to you, how you're doing out here, and be your toughest critic. So appreciate him for that. We get out here in these champion reserves, and again, guys, just the quality is outstanding. From a county level perspective, y'all are in a different world, in my opinion. The quality of this show, for the numbers that are here, is just outstanding. It's going to take something real special one day for me not to use the two blacks, and that's still going to be the story today. I think those two fit the mold. They're my kind. They're going to be your champion reserve. Congratulations to those two young men. A fantastic job. Congratulations to everyone.
So your grand champion lamb goes to Colton Jones. Your reserve grand champion lamb goes to Case Jones.